Good afternoon, Who Dat Nation, and happy week 13, Bayou Blitz family. Yeah, that's right. We're already on December 1st. Man, I don't know about you, Brendan, but time has absolutely flied this season. I remember way back in early September, week 2, we were talking about, hey, can the New Orleans Saints be legitimate playoff and Super Bowl contenders this year? Now in week 13, we are sitting here talking about a 4-7 Saints team coming off of a bye and hoping for a 3-game winning streak under interim coach Darren Rizzi. And on that note, welcome to the Week 13 Bayou Blitz pregame show. I am one of your co-hosts, Bob Rose, and joining me is my partner and my co-host, Brendan Boylan. Happy belated Thanksgiving to you and your family, Brendan. Happy belated Thanksgiving to all you listeners and viewers out there. I don't think we've had a show since then, so happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, hope everybody had a good, safe, healthy, happy Thanksgiving. And for those of you who traveled, hopefully everybody got home safe and sound. The road's been a little wild all across the country, airports too. So hopefully everybody's back where they need to be, or you're sitting in an airport somewhere watching us on your phone, which we appreciate. Mm-hmm. Everything's good on this side. We'll see what we can say about the Saints' health being good. It doesn't sound very good, but if there is a team in the NFC that can relate to the Saints a little bit about losing key players throughout the season and losing key players all at once, it would be the Los Angeles Rams. Now, the difference now being the Rams have got a lot of those guys back to where the Saints have not. And that's why the Rams are where they are. But this is a great opportunity for New Orleans. And I think a lot could be said depending on the results of this week, right, Bob? Because you and I had said specifically right when Darren Rizzi was named the interim head coach, for about 2 weeks, that team's going to, look a little different. They're going to be swinging a little harder, maybe punch a little faster. Well, now those magical 2 weeks are up, and Cam Jordan, even last week when he was making a guest appearance, I believe it was on Fox, NFL Sunday, said that a lot of the team really didn't want to go into a bye week. They wanted to keep the momentum going, so the bye may actually hurt the Saints in terms of timing this go around. But that's a lot of different, factors that are going to be involved into what Saints team do you get today?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. And like you said, both of us were talking, ad nauseum, about when a team makes a coaching change during the season, not just NFL, but throughout professional sports. You typically see a more emotional, more intense team for a week or two. But now we're 3 weeks outside of a Dennis Allen coaching removal, if you count the bye week. So can the Saints maintain that level of intensity, that level of enthusiasm? That in large part, I think, was you're responsible for getting them those 2 wins. Because on the field against Cleveland and Atlanta, we were seeing a lot of the same issues that we saw from the Saints throughout that 7-game losing streak. So hopefully during the bye week, they were able to clean that up a little bit, but carry over that momentum and that intensity into this Rams game. Because I think that this is a critical game for both teams. If either squad has an even remote chance at the playoffs, they need this win to climb back into the NFC playoff chase. I think the loser is all but eliminated for everything but mathematically. So this is a key game for both teams. You mentioned the Rams. They opened the year 1-4 because they were pretty beaten up. Went on a little winning streak of their own, but they've lost 2 of the last 3, including at home last week to a very good Philadelphia Eagles team. The Saints, as we know, started the year 2-0. Bottom dropped out with that 7-game winning streak, and then they recaptured a little bit of momentum with the 2 wins heading into the bye. I think these are 2 very flawed teams, but I also think they're 2 very talented teams that, if healthy, if either one get into the playoffs, they have the talent to make a little bit of noise.
Well, I mean, we're not that far removed from an LA Rams team that found themselves in a Super Bowl, winning a Super Bowl. And there's still a lot of pieces of that team that remain. There may not be many, but there's a handful. Bob, I know that we're going to have the official inactives here in a little bit, talking about the New Orleans Saints and the Los Angeles Rams. This is a Saints team where it seems like as soon as you get some good news about health, it turns right back around, and there's some maybe bad news in regards to health. The biggest ones that people were watching this week: Lucas Patrick, the starting left guard, questionable coming into the week, and then Eric McCoy, the starting center, who was able to come back and be a big part of the Saints maybe gaining some momentum over the last few weeks and getting into this 2-game winning streak. So with that, Bob, Lucas Patrick, Eric McCoy, status up in the air. Do we officially have a status for them?
Yes, we do. Eric McCoy, inactive today. Lucas Patrick, inactive today. Tano Passanio, we saw him practice full duties for a couple of days there, but he was not activated off the PUP list, so he will not be going today. Jordan Mims, inactive today, so that tells us that Jamal Williams, has been given a green light of health, and he'll be ready to go. No Mason Tipton at wide receiver, and no Christian Boyd, defensive tackle, or Jalen Ford, the rookie linebacker. So 2 rookie late round picks we haven't really seen much of this year. Once again inactive. Tipton inactive for I believe the second straight game. I don't believe he was activated against the Browns either. So we'll see. Obviously, Marquez Valdez-Scantling has become a big part of the passing attack, but we're going to see Kevin Austin and Dante Pettis a lot more of them this afternoon, as well as Cedric Wilson.
Like I was saying, I feel like every time you get some decent news in regards to health when it comes to the New Orleans Saints, it's matched with not great news. This is one where I think immediately your focus goes to the offensive line.
Yeah.
Because Lucas Patrick has had really good moments this season. Eric McCoy has shown how invaluable he is to this offense. And the little bit of time we saw him return from injury, you're going up against an LA team that is as desperate for a win to stay alive in the playoff picture as New Orleans, as you mentioned. What are some concerns missing 2 of those interior offensive linemen? Now, you might just laugh at that and say, well, they've been missing most of the interior of the offensive line all year.
Yeah.
But in a game like this, where you are riding some momentum, how crucial is it to not have those guys?
Oh, it's critical. But you're right. I mean, the Saints have been without most of the interior offensive line all year. In fact, the starting 5 offensive line for New Orleans has not been together since McCoy went down on the 3rd play of week 3 against Philadelphia. Well, I don't have to tell you guys how much this offense struggled during that 7-game winning streak. We saw some signs of life against Carolina, a few weeks ago, along with Atlanta and, of course, Cleveland last week. But remember, Cleveland last week, McCoy played about 2/3 of the game before he had to exit again. And now you're going up against a Rams defense. They only ranked 27th overall, and they're 28th against the run. They've given up some plays, for sure. LA has, they've given up 144.8 average on the ground and 4.6 per carry. But in the 6 Rams losses, they've given up an average of 172 yards on the ground and 5.3 per carry. But what I've seen out of this Rams defense, I see a lot of young talent, and with youth often comes inconsistencies, and that's what I'm seeing from the Rams. There's a lot of inconsistency, blown assignments on defense, but I see speed, and I see a lot of athleticism, particularly from their front 7 along the edge. Braden Fisk, Kobe Turner, Byron Young, Jared Verse, they're all undersized, but I'll tell you, they can all get back into the backfield in the snap of a finger. So that's putting a lot of onus on Fuaga and Penning, the 2 New Orleans offensive tackles who've had good seasons. I think we're going to see Penning and Fuaga in a lot of one-on-one matchups, because if you're Clint Kubiak, you know how valuable McCoy is. You know how well Patrick has played for you when he's been healthy. But without them, are you going to rely on Nick Saldiveri, Shane Lemieux, Kyle Hergel, well, when you did during that 7-game losing streak, you saw what that end result is. So I think the Saints are going to have a hard time running inside. Would not surprise me to see them use more fullbacks today, be it Adam Prentice, Foster Moreau, lined up in the fullback position, just for an extra blocker inside. Not so much that you're going to try to run the ball inside, because with Alvin Kamara, I hope not. But you need to have cutback lanes for Kamara and Taysom Hill on those off tackle plays. You need to have some sort of pass protection on the inside, to set up those play action fakes where you like to roll Carr out of the pocket. Because if the pass rush is on you in a flash, it doesn't matter if you roll your quarterback out or not. Those inside rushers are going to be on you in a split second. And I would expect the Rams to adopt a lot of the strategy that defenses did. Go back and watch that Denver tape, or Kansas City or Tampa Bay. Those teams just blitzed relentlessly inside. They weren't worried about the edge rushers. They actually pinched their edge rushers inside also, to just overload the middle. And New Orleans had no answer for it. So it's going to be an interesting chess match there today.
I'm going to ask you, because you brought up Kamara, you brought up Taysom Hill, you also brought up the use of maybe having an extra blocker. Do you see Jamal Williams having any impact in that part of the game, since he's active for the first time in a while?
Yeah, he is active for the first time in 3 or 4 weeks, I think. We know that Jamal Williams is most effective as an inside runner. And we just got done saying you're not going to be able to run inside, unlikely to run inside, without McCoy, without Patrick. It wouldn't surprise me to see Jamal used in short yardage situations, just to give Kamara or Taysom a spell. I think when we'll see Jamal used maybe is in passing situations, as an extra blitz pickup, in pass protection where you keep him inside, just like I mentioned with Moreau or Prentice. They'll use Jamal that same way, rather than waste a pass block, thereby nullifying the versatility of Taysom Hill or Alvin Kamara.
That's kind of what I was thinking as well. For as poor of a 2 seasons now as Jamal has had in New Orleans, one thing you can count on him to do is be an aggressive pass blocker, especially at his size. Well, Bob, let's go ahead and pay the bills. I think it's about that time. And for you guys, all you got to do is remember that Underdog is the place to play if you're a sports fan looking to win money while you're watching sports. Think, will Alvin Kamara rack up higher than 55.5 rushing yards this week? Or will Matthew Stafford have lower than half an interception against the Saints today? You can cook up some entries for a shot to win real cash prizes all football season long. And also, remember about a new mode, a game you won't find anywhere else. Yes, Red Zone Rush. Just pick whether or not a player will score a touchdown by swiping right for yes or left for no. It's as simple as that. Plus, your entry will be automatically boosted, and you'll get a 51% profit boost when you play. Bob and I are due. We'll give you our picks here for our pick'em entry here in a second. But again, look, as I've said, you got to look past the results when it comes to Bob and I. We've put ourselves in positions with some of these picks to hit, and guys haven't really came through for us. So maybe they're feeling a little festive in the holiday spirit, and they're going to gift us a victory in that pick'em entry. All you got to do, download the app. It is Underdog Fantasy. Use code Bayou Blitz to get up to 1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Again, download the app today and use code Bayou Blitz to get up to 1,000 in bonus cash instantly. All right, Remember, got to be 18 or older, 19 or older in Alabama or Nebraska, 19 in Colorado, for some games, 21 or older in Massachusetts and Arizona. Got to be present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. If you're in Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342. New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE NY. That's 467369. All right, Bob. Let's see what Underdog has for us today. Well, I mentioned one right there, and that is Matthew Stafford, higher or lower than half an interception, essentially. Will Matthew Stafford throw an interception today or not?
Boy, I'll tell you, New Orleans has been a sieve against the pass and the run too, for that matter. But the one thing the Saints have done is intercept the football and create some turnovers, especially in games that they have been close. When the Rams have lost, Matthew Stafford has thrown the ball up for grabs. I think Stafford has 7 or 8 interceptions this year. We're both big fans of Matthew Stafford, you and I, Brendan, but we also know he's an old school gunslinger. So he is going to give your secondary some chances. And look, in last year's matchup, he absolutely decimated the Saints. 24 or 34, 328, only sacked once, pressured very little, and no interceptions. That was a better Saints defense than the one that we're witnessing today, the one that we've seen all year long. But I think Matthew Stafford throws an interception today. I think he throws a pick. I think Alontae Taylor, Tyrann Mathieu, one of those guys are going to step up their play, and make a play for this defense. I still don't have a great deal of confidence you're going to shorten LA to too many 3-and-outs, but I do believe that the Saints will get a turnover or two this afternoon. So I'm going to go higher on the half an interception.
Yeah, I like that one. I'll give you a little bit of an easier one. This guy is found the end zone quite a lot for the Rams this season. That's Kyren Williams. He's going to score, right? He has to. He's been a guy who's scored a whole lot this season. There's 2 options. We'll see which one you like a little bit better. Receiving touchdown, higher than half a receiving touchdown, a little bit different for him. Or we can play it a little safer and say higher than a rushing or receiving touchdown.
You gotta factor in the run here. Kyren Williams is a good receiver, but he's the bread and butter of the Rams backfield. And the Rams haven't run for a lot of yards this year, but we know Kyren Williams is a good back, and we also know that the Saints give up rushing yards in bunches. Look at what they did against Saquon Barkley, Kareem Hunt, hell, Sean Tucker, for God's sake. Kyren Williams is going to get in the end zone today, I believe, as a runner, and hopefully it's only once. But Kyren Williams is going to see the other side of the goal line against the Saints this afternoon.
I'm with you on that one. We'll go to a New Orleans Saints running back. We're talking about 2 really good running backs in the league today with Williams and, of course, Alvin Kamara. There's a lot of different ways that we could go with this one. I'm going to give you 3, and you just tell me which one you like the best. Rushing yards, higher or lower than 65.5. Receiving yards, higher or lower than 40.5. Or we could do the touchdown thing, higher than half a receiving touchdown or higher than half of a receiving or rushing touchdown.
Well, I mean, we know that this offense not only runs through Alvin Kamara, it basically is Alvin Kamara. I know, Valdez-Scantling has made some plays. Taysom Hill, is a key part of the offense. But they get their opportunities because of defensive focus on Alvin Kamara for the most part. Kamara, through 6 games against LA, 6 career games, he's only averaged 48 yards on the ground. But he's averaged over 5 receptions and over almost 52 yards as a receiver. In last year's matchup, you kind of have to throw that out the window because the Saints fell behind 30-7 before any of us, any of our dinners could really settle. That was a primetime contest, if you remember. So, they fell behind so quick that basically nullified the running game. So Kamara only had 19 yards on the ground. He had 5 catches in that game, but, for only 16 yards. I think Kamara gets involved as a receiver today. They need him to be effective as a runner. Otherwise, the Saints do not win this game. But the Rams defense, I mentioned how athletic they were along their edge. A spot where they aren't athletic is inside linebacker. And the Rams are actually ranked 25th in the league for receiving average by opposing running backs. I'm going to take those numbers, and I'm going to take Kamara's receiving number that we have from Underdog today, and I'm going to go higher on it.
Higher than 40.5 receiving yards, it is. And finally, we're gonna do something different. We have to change it up. We haven't been winning, so we're gonna go with 4 picks instead of 3 picks this week. And
the 4 wide, I love it.
Hey, why not? Why not? We talked about this guy last week or 2 weeks ago. He did his part, I believe, in the Pick'em entry, and that's MVS, who has, in my opinion and your opinion, if you go back and find some of those archived articles now, because it's been a few weeks, believe that he has earned himself a contract extension with New Orleans as a guy that could be a major player, right? The Saints still looking for receiver 3 even when they're healthy, and MVS could definitely be that guy. Bob, this is another one where I like some of these numbers from Underdog. The problem is MVS big play guy. So if you don't get the big play, you might not hit. So these are the 3 options for you. Touchdown, higher than half of a touchdown, higher or lower than 35.5 receiving yards, or higher than 2.5 receptions.
Wow, the thing about Valdez-Scantling, he's only had 2 or 3 receptions in those big game outings because, like you said, a lot of them have been big gains. I want to see Valdez-Scantling get the ball more underneath because remember, one or 2 of those big gains were actually catch and runs; they weren't bombs. But we do know that that's who Derek Carr is going to target on his downfield throws is Marquez Valdez-Scantling. I feel the most comfortable with the receiving yards. Would you say it was 35.5?
Oh, it just went up. It is now 37.5.
Okay.
You're listening.
Yeah, they are. And thank you, underdog.com. I still feel most comfortable with the 3 numbers you gave out. I'm hoping to see him get higher than 2 or 3 receptions. Obviously, we all hope he sees the end zone, which he has 3 times in the last 2 games. But I feel most comfortable with the receiving yards. The Rams have been solid against the pass, but certainly far from unstoppable. And Valdez-Scantling is the best wideout you have on the team. If the Rams bring some safeties up or shift their coverages, to deal with Juwan Johnson, Foster Moreau, or Alvin Kamara in the intermediate zones, it's going to give your downfield shots to Valdez-Scantling. I gotta go over on the receiving yard, or higher on the receiving yardage.
I'll give you one more then, if you like receiving yards. First half receiving yards for MVS, 16.5, higher or lower.
In addition to?
No, separate one is you could go strictly on how many receiving yards he has in the first half.
MVS has burned us for 2 straight weeks because we went with that quarter or half thing. And we were literally like 1 or 2 plays off. So I don't know if he and Derek Carr and Clint Kubiak are listening and they're not dialing up those plays until after our wager becomes null and void. I still like the receiving yardage for the game over a quarter or a half.
Okay. We'll give it a shot here and see what we can do. All right. We are set with that one. And here it is. Are we going to flex it or try to go 4 for 4?
Man, that's your call, Brendan. But folks, one of the problems with our wager, with the Bayou Blitz wagers every single week, is unless Brendan's not telling me something, I am pretty sure he is going off my analysis. And as long as my last name remains Rose, I'm going to be the kiss of death. So yeah, I will leave that the parlay decision up to you.
Okay, we will flex it. We desperately just need something good to happen. So that's what we're gonna do.
We're not looking for a touchdown. We just need a damn first down.
That's it at this point. Like, yeah, we don't need anything crazy. So yeah, we're gonna do that. We're going to go ahead and do that, and I will go ahead and tweet that here in a moment. Bob, you have the Rams inactives?
I don't. But Alaris, the one starting tackle on the left side, I believe, was kind of been a revolving door for the Rams this year. He is out. One of their backup linemen is out, and the tight end Tyler Higbee, he was declared out on Friday. So that much I do know about the Rams.
How do you feel? Obviously, this is a Rams side, and this kind of goes hand in hand with us taking the higher than half an interception for Matthew Stafford. The big knock on the Rams early in the year was that they had no receivers whatsoever. And missing Puka Nakua, missing Cooper Kupp. Now that both those guys are back in the lineup and the Saints are decimated at corner with not having Paulson Debo, trading away Marshawn Lattimore, you're expecting a lot out of a rookie in Kool-Aid McKinstry. How do you feel about those matchups for both of them?
And in my Saints News Network article this morning, it wasn't this morning, it was this afternoon, about 2 hours ago. I highlighted 3 areas. Alvin Kamara, key player, Alvin Kamara, key position, Saints defensive line. We mentioned that you got to stop Kyron Williams, but that you also have to get pressure on Matthew Stafford. The key position battle to me is the Saints secondary versus the Rams receivers. In that game last year where Stafford just tortured the New Orleans defense. Matthew's 24 completions in that game. 9 went to Puka Nakua for 164 yards. 6 went to Cooper Kupp for 52 yards, and 6 went to Demarcus Robinson for 82 yards. That 21 receptions for 298 yards from those 3 guys. And now you factor in Tutu Atwell, who we know is a big play threat. We've seen him victimize the Saints before. This Rams receiving core is going to be tough to stop. But the thing I like about the Sean McVay offense is that it is a downfield attack, and it hits you with a lot of crossing routes, which leads to natural pick plays at times against man coverage, with some questionable, offensive pass interference calls that go non-called, because of unnatural pick plays. But those are long developing routes. You need to have protection for that, for your quarterback to identify those downfield threats. So that's why, hence the highlight of the Saints defensive line and pressure packages, as the key position. But the New Orleans corners, they need to stay disciplined. It wouldn't surprise me if the Saints played a lot more off-ball coverage today, because that's actually how you combat that and the pressure up front. You're without Paulson Adebo, you're without Marshawn Lattimore, 2 man-to-man specialists. Alontae Taylor is a fine corner, but I wouldn't consider him a shutdown corner. Kool-Aid McKinstry has shutdown traits, but he's not there yet. And you're talking about Hugo Amadi, Rico Payton, Shamar Jean Charles. They're going to get reps at the outside corner and the slot. Those guys are good corners. They're fun to root for, fun players to watch, but they're guys that you don't want covering a Puka Nakua, a Cooper Kupp, or for that matter, even a Demarcus Robinson. So on paper, I certainly give the edge to the Rams, but there are ways where the Saints can combat this. Again, pressure up front, disciplined in your coverage. When you do play man, play a physical brand of man-to-man coverage. Don't let those guys get free releases off the line. Make them work through you physically, just to get a release, because that also buys an extra half second to a second for your pass rush to get home.
And for the Saints, defensively, What is the biggest thing that you've seen on film when it comes to Kool-Aid McKinstry? Because he has had moments where he has looked NFL ready, and he has had moments where he looks, well, I was trying to come up with something smart, but he looks very lost out there at other times. When you're facing a guy like Cooper Kupp, who, when healthy, is one of the better route runners, if not the best route runner in football. And when you're facing a guy in Puka Nacua who lit up and blossomed before people's eyes a year ago, what are you looking for out of Kool-Aid McKinstry against those guys, considering, well, this was not a position that I think any of us thought he'd be in so early in his NFL career?
Yeah, it wasn't. Because of the depth that Saints had at cornerback. But at the same time, I love Kool-Aid McKinstry, and both you and I loved the pick. We're surprised by it, but we loved it. During our Bayou Blitz draft coverage. Nightmare scenarios for rookie cornerbacks are going up against shifty and savvy route runners like a Cooper Kupp, like a Puka Nacua. If you're the Saints, you're trying not, believe it or not, even though McKinstry is your second best cornerback behind Alontae Taylor, and perhaps your best natural cover guy. It sounds almost crazy to say you want to try to avoid isolation matchups against either one of those guys, especially in big situations. We're going to see how good a film study Kool-Aid McKinstry is, especially coming off the bye week, because he's going to face Cooper Kupp, he's going to face Puka Nacua, and those guys are just such good route runners. And those are the type of players that make rookie cornerbacks look foolish. Kool-Aid, he can run with anybody. Yeah, he's fast. He's a fast guy. He's an agile guy, so he can stay with you. With the shifty guys, with the smart route runners. But the key is the recognition. The study of the guy you're going up against, if they have any tendencies. In other words, you're going to be made to look foolish when you're fooled. Yet another reason why I expect some off-ball coverage, from the Saints, so Alontae and Kool-Aid can keep those guys in front of them, for as long, for that extra second and a half, of route running. So that way, if they get juked, it's only gonna turn maybe an 8-yard route into a 15-yard route, instead of a 15-yard route into a 70-yard route.
We've seen a lot of 15-yard routes turn into 70-yard routes over the last few years, haven't we?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that was a little bit painful just to hear you say it out loud. What should be a 15-yard completion, or I think we've seen our fair share of 5-yard completions where missed tackles have turned into monster gains.
Well, and that's just it. I mean, Will Harris and Tyrann Mathieu are going to actually have to absolutely ball out, because when you do go to man or against those crossers, it's up to your safeties to break those plays up. It's up to your safeties to bait the quarterback into the wrong throw, and it's up to your safeties to provide the deep help over the top.
Well, you're absolutely right. And this is a game where, for as much as we love Tyrann Mathieu, there are also times where Tyrann Mathieu really has shown his age. Which, Father Time is undefeated. This is one of those games where I think when you're facing a guy like Matthew Stafford, who has such a high IQ, has such wonderful arm talent, that you're really going to be relying on a guy like Tyrann Mathieu, especially to lead some of these younger DBs that we just talked about, right? In a Kool-Aid McKinstry, and even Alontae Taylor, as good as he's been for the Saints, still a younger guy. A guy like Tyrann Mathieu and what's still left upstairs in terms of his NFL and football IQ, that's going to be crucial to almost cover up some of the mistakes that those younger guys make. And we talked about Matthew Stafford being a gunslinger, being a guy who likes to push the ball downfield, likes to, throw it into these tiny windows. Before we saw Mahomes with the no-look sidearms, it was Matthew Stafford making those plays. You're really counting on Tyrann Mathieu to make a good read, make a play, and be the honey badger in a game like this.
And for God's sake, tackle.
I was trying to avoid that, but okay. Yeah, I mean, you're just being honest at this point. There are times where it's like, what are you doing? And it's not just Tyrann Mathieu.
No.
He gets a lot of it, but there are times where it's just like the team just forgets how to fundamentally play football. And it gives you PTSD of like 2015, 2016, where you're just like, what happened? Let's see. Fuaga's season on Twitter said, "Did somebody say safety? And can we pay Alontae Taylor early?" That's going to be an interesting one. Bob and I will definitely get into that in the offseason, especially because Paulson Debo's injury changes a whole lot of the landscape. And with Lattimore getting traded, that changes a lot of the landscape of what we thought we were going to be talking about at the defensive back position. So that'll be one we definitely get into as the season continues to come to a close. Or, it may be put off a lot longer if the Saints keep winning and some other things in the NFC South keep happening. You just never know. With all that said, Bob, we've kind of laid it out, some of the things that we need to see from the Saints today in order to win. With all that said, do you think the Saints are going to win? What's your final score prediction?
No, I don't think the Saints are going to win today. I'm obviously rooting for it. It's so much more fun to cover a team down the stretch of the year when they're at least in a playoff race. I stand by what I said early in the show. I think the loser of this game may not be mathematically eliminated. But the fat lady is warming up those vocal cords because they're done. I think the Saints could win this game, and I laid out the reasons how. On defense, you got to stay disciplined in your secondary, tackle. When you do go man, you got to disrupt those Rams receivers at the line of scrimmage and not give them a free release. You got to pressure Matthew Stafford so that way he doesn't have time for those crossers and those combination routes to develop, and you got to stop the run. The problem is the Saints have done none of those things this year. Certainly not all of them in the same game. So when it happens, it will be a first. I think they're capable of doing it, but I'm not going to hold my breath. On offense, again, I go back to last year's matchup. We saw a better Saints defense, get absolutely diced. The team fell behind 30-7 before you knew what was going on. That was also a better Saints offense because you had Chris Olave, you had Rashid Shaheed, you had a slightly better offensive line. Now you don't have those things. I love the way Marquez Valdes-Scantling is playing, but he's not Rashid, he's not Olave. You need to stay in the game early. You need to get stops on defense so that way your running game actually has meaning. Because if it doesn't, it's going to be a long day. You need Kamara involved as a receiver heavily, as a runner heavily, and not into the teeth of the defense. Get him in space. You want to pound the ball inside and on those guard, between those guard tackle gaps. Use Taysom Hill, and I do think they will. Taysom put a lot of tape out there by what he did against Cleveland. And I would love to see Clint Kubiak continue using Taysom that way. I doubt we see 248 all-purpose yards. We pointed this out on our post-game show after the Browns game. The thing that we both loved about the way they use Taysom is we've always seen Taysom line up all over the place. We've never seen Taysom get the ball in all those positions that he was lined up in. And 2 weeks ago against Cleveland, he did. Again, we just outlined, unless you plan on relying on Kevin Austin and Dante Pettis and Cedric Wilson or inconsistent tight ends, then you got no choice. You have to get the ball to Taysom Hill all over the place. Kamara is obviously still the key to this offense. I have a little bit more faith, even without McCoy, without Patrick, without Shaheed, without Olave. I have a little bit more confidence in the Saints offense to put points on the board today than I do the Saints defense to stop it. It wouldn't surprise, believe it or not, Brendan, it would not surprise me if this game turned into a shootout, but I'm going to go with the Rams by a score of 27-20.
I think this is a classic case, at least for the Rams, where their record doesn't reflect how good of a football team they are, right? I'm not saying they're a team that is going to massively compete for the NFC, but I'm saying this is a team that is on paper, because we haven't used that saying yet today. On paper is a team that should certainly find themselves in the playoffs. Now, injuries have a lot to do with that. This is not the same defense that got them to the Super Bowl a handful of years ago. But you still have a future Hall of Fame at quarterback, and you have two really talented receivers and a running back that is really putting himself on full display, especially in the fantasy football world and in the sports betting world, right? With that said, a lot of times, and we know this as Saints, analysts and Saints fans over the years, a lot of times a really good offense can cover up a not so good defense and at least get you to a close to 500, win loss. That's kind of what I'm looking at for the Rams. I think sitting at 5-6 for them, I think they're a little bit better than that. And I think we saw that, lightning in a bottle burst of excitement from New Orleans already. And I think the law of averages kind of come out to play. And we see a team that is, towards the bottom of the NFC at 4-7. And we see a team that, is what they are. What's the quote, Bob? Help me out. They are who we thought they were.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what I think we see out of the Saints today. I don't think it's going to be a shootout. You said there's a possibility for that. I like your score prediction, but I'm going to go with the Rams 31, the Saints 20. I don't think it's going to be very close. I think there's going to be moments where the Saints give you a little bit of hope, a little bit of excitement, but ultimately they end up falling to what I think is a better team. With all that said, Bob and I will be back for a post-game show. You guys will have access to it first thing in the morning for your drive into work. But before we get into all that, Bob has worked tirelessly. There's no off season for Bob. There's no bye weeks for Bob. And there's no holidays for Bob either. Bob just writes 24/7. Bob was sitting at the Thanksgiving table with a turkey leg in one hand and typing out an article in the other. With that, you should probably check out some of Bob's work. Make him feel good about it. So with that, Bob, where can people follow you and all of your work with the Saints News Network?
Thanksgiving dinner was actually almost 10 minutes late. Getting set down because I couldn't start the stuffing because I was finishing an article. But thank you all for tuning in to the Bayou Blitz pregame show. Make sure you not only check out our postgame show, tomorrow morning, as Brendan said, but our weekly broadcast, unless something pops up, our weekly broadcast is going to be back to Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Central Time, 9 p.m. if you're on the West Coast. Brendan and I, your Bayou Blitz has been a big part of promoting the original Go Black and Gold Celebrity Fan Cruise. We were so blessed to have Pierre Thomas on with us last week. We've had Tyrone Hughes. We've had Delvin Breaux. We've had Lance Moore. Last week, to help us introduce Pierre Thomas, you got a brief glimpse of the beer man, Michael Lewis. Well, you're going to get more than a glimpse of him this Wednesday because Mike Lewis is going to join us. I still have to confirm, but we have had talks. And it looks like Michael Lewis is going to be joining Brendan and I for our Wednesday episode. So make sure you join us for that and check out our past episodes of the Bayou Blitz on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Red Circle, wherever you catch your favorite podcasts. As far as for my written works, you can check that out first, along with John Hendricks and Kyle Mosley at the Saints News Network or the SI.com team page for the New Orleans Saints. I also post them on my personal social media platforms, Bob Rose on Facebook and at Bobby R2613 on the X Twitter.
The X Twitter, one of our favorite places in the world for, silly season, because I really do feel like we are just about there. I think we are really getting close to silly season. And look, if the Saints, it's when the Saints winning streak gets broken up at this point, because I just don't see this team winning out. And I'm not crazy for thinking that. So any of you that are, super, super optimistic Saints fans, like, yay you, but they're not winning out this year. So I think when ultimately, the curtain closes, the fat lady enters stage right, because she's in the wing. She's waiting stage right. Well, warming up those vocals, as you said. When that moment comes, we are going to officially be back in silly season with people
Yes.
throwing out God knows what on Twitter. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. Obviously, I want this team to be competitive. I want this team to be pushing for the playoffs. Unfortunately, I think we're past that point. So you guys get ready for silly season. I look forward to it every year.
Embrace the madness.
Embrace the madness. Yes, the chaos. Because you guys give me a good chuckle every day. You guys that tweet X out, whatever you guys do. So we're really looking forward to it. For myself, you can follow me virtually everywhere at BT Boylan. Bob and I will be back for a post-game wrap-up. It'll be a post-game extravaganza as the Saints are on a 3-game winning streak, or it'll be post-game intro to silly season. So with all of that said, you can catch that tomorrow wherever you get your pods. Bob and I will also be back on Wednesday, as he mentioned, and continuing we got to come up with a creative name for this, because we have been talking weekly with Saints Hall of Famers or Super Bowl champions. So we will be back with our Tour Day Champions of Fame. That's the best I got.
I mean, yeah, Tour de Lis is too cliche. Yeah, we got to come up with something.
We'll work on that. Join us for post game while we work on that. Until then, guys, I hope you enjoy the game. Heat up some Thanksgiving Day leftovers, and we will see you on the other side. Who dat?
Do that.